Welcome to the audio version of my book, Free, read by me, Paola Castro. This book is dedicated to my family. Without you, my life would not be a song filled with love, peace, kindness, and grace. To my tribe, thank you for walking with me in this very human and beautiful journey. And to Spirit, eternally grateful for unconditionally loving me. Love is what we're born with. Fear is what we learn. The spiritual journey is the unlearning of fear and prejudices and the acceptance of love back in our hearts. Love is the essential reality and our purpose on earth. To be consciously aware of it, to experience love in ourselves and others, is the meaning of life. Meaning does not lie in things. Meaning lies in us. Marianne Williamson. Chapter 1. The Veil. We are born in this world destined to be programmed by our surroundings, our genetics, and our culture. At school, we are told we are born, we grow, we reproduce, and we die. Perceived from a physical standpoint, it is true. Thanks to my story, my parents' stories, and that of those who have challenged their programming, today, I know that this simplistic way of grasping our destiny can be changed, which allows us to move from a way of being to a way of transcending. What happens is that we cannot even think about transcending if we do not understand the veil that covers our spiritual eyes from the truth of our existence. Let's begin with contrast. We have night and day, yin and yang, man and woman, good and evil. This is the natural contrast that upholds balance. To know light, we must know darkness. To enjoy happiness, we must undergo moments of sadness. To program ourselves, we must first be initially deprogrammed. Such programming can be understood in two ways. First, had we not been programmed, we could not have lived on this planet, since we would not be able to socialize, to make choices, or even to speak our country's language. Second, because of this programming, we have unlearned who we really are. When we are born, everything is clear in terms of peace, fulfillment, and happiness. Just take a look at a baby, and you will be able to see how her magnetism causes adults to be in a state of admiration. By being children, at least until 2 years of age, we perceive the world without prejudice. We simply are. We are in complete harmony with the source that created us. We accept the uncertainty, since our lack of conscience forces us to trust those who take care of us. With time, amnesia eclipses the infant's overflowing joy. When we begin to process information, we see that this world is perhaps not as safe as we thought. Maybe our guardians are not as shielding as we hoped. As we begin to encounter situations of uncertainty, we create a self-protective cloud of knowledge in our brain that causes us to forget the infinite capacity of our existence. Once we process this information, we know what keeps us safe and what does not. At that moment, we are already conditioned by our own mind to react in certain ways under certain circumstances. After all, its task is to keep us alive. So it is then that we start to choose our life based on knowledge that is acquired or transferred to us. We find ourselves in a society where adults perceive that they must change, improve, or find something that they lost. We know that this feeling of emptiness is not what we deserve. The good news is that nothing has been lost. We do not need to change or become something that we are not. But Rather, we must remember who we are and release our perfect essence, the same one that has been hiding under layers of protection and fear. With this book, I intend to guide you to lift the veil of logic and resistance, to help you remember who you really are, just like I have remembered. Today I feel the calling to pass that memory down to you, to transmit it, and for you to pass it on to others until we create a beautiful revolution, the same one that is already spreading around the world, the awakening of consciousness. Something that I wish to warn you of before we continue is that this book was not created as a magic potion that you take only once and everything is resolved. This is a daily practice, a new lifestyle. The intent of this book is for you to remember who you are again and again, so that you can live a full life in complete alignment with your essence. This is a bedside book. Nothing is lost. Everything is still inside. Together, we're going to unravel the layers of illusion for you to claim your birthright, to live a life that makes your heart sing. We begin by confessing. Then you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. John 8:32. Just like a high-rise building, we need a deep, strong foundation to hold up what we're about to build. Let's start with this. The truth sets me free. I repeat these words over and over every time I feel I am not aligned with myself. What does it mean to not be aligned? It is when you feel frustrated, hopeless, negative, and unwilling to do what you know you must do to take the steps towards your evolution. That is why it is important to confess. For me, to confess means to be honest with oneself and express what's bothering you or what you're longing for with all your heart, but for some reason is not present in your life, either because you have run from it due to fear of not being deserving or of not being able to achieve it. So, in order to begin to feel less weight on yourself, you must learn to confess, not with a priest or with a psychologist, but with yourself, in solitude, in front of a mirror, or with your pillow, privately. Let's start small to be kind to ourselves. With great caution, we hide our insecurities, and for that reason, we are now going to uncover them with caution as well. What do we not dare say out loud? Below are some of my examples, as well as others I have heard from my clients. I am not good enough to take this job. I do not think I am good enough to be liked by the man or the woman of my dreams. I'm not smart enough as other people, so I won't be able to get as far as I want to go. I'm not sure I want to continue to be in this relationship. I do not want to stay at this job anymore, but I'm afraid that I won't get another one. I do not want to continue with this project. It doesn't inspire me, and I don't feel passionate about it. I want to study something different for what I chose, but I am ashamed of what people may say, think. I know I have to take care of my body, but I prefer to ignore my reality. It is too hard to face what I've done to myself. My marriage is not going well. I feel guilty for not being what I think I should be. For example, a better mom, dad, daughter, son, girlfriend, boyfriend, employee, etc. Among many more confessions we do not want to face. We must challenge ourselves to confront what we are running from, because therein lies the secret to establishing a solid foundation, a base with roots of authenticity. We must dare to see ourselves as we are. It is a small but powerful step. It opens doors and possibilities. Little by little, you will find the courage to take conscientious actions, to leave behind what you previously believed you could never release. In my coaching sessions, I invite my clients to gradually confess to themselves their most embarrassing thoughts. These are the kinds of thoughts that you want to deny or run away and hide from whenever you think of them. If we do not do this, then we will continue to lie to ourselves until one day we are unable to differentiate between the truth of our soul and an imposed truth, born of the need to stay in the comfort zone, seeking to please others, or simply out of fear of what people may say. For this reason, I invite you to whisper your truth. Do not tell anyone yet, but I am sure that by listening to this, you will know where your truth lies. The courage to take our fears and to look them straight in the eyes instead of fleeing from them creates a miracle, one that I call the death of the illusion of fear and the resurrection of the truth, love. Free writing exercise. Do this preferably in a place where you will not be interrupted. I recommend you to do this every day until you connect deeply with yourself. Place your left hand on your heart and your right hand on your stomach, right on your belly button. Breathe deeply through your nose and exhale through your mouth. Do this for 1 minute on the first day and increase the time each day you practice it. Pay attention to your breathing and your heartbeat. Once you are connected with your heartbeat and your breathing, repeat this phrase in your mind. I am willing to listen to the truth of my soul. Wait quietly and let your heart tell you what is really happening. This may take a few minutes or even days. We have been practicing for so long the art of not listening to ourselves. Be patient. Once you do this, you're going to take a pen and a piece of paper, and you will write at the top, Dear, and write your name. I am your soul, and I want to tell you the following. In this space, please give yourself a few minutes. Set a timer for 1 to 5 minutes, as long as you can, and write freely, with your mind only loosely focused on the writing itself. For example, it doesn't matter if in the beginning you write, I want to tell you that I do not know how to do this exercise, but I'm going to give myself the chance to write. Write what's inside of me. And you continue without paying attention to your grammar or if what you are writing makes sense or not. Let it flow like we did when we were children, improvising. Let yourself go. Write freely. This free form of writing gives you access to your soul's wisdom, which is why it is important that you do this without thinking or without stopping. In this manner, the mind will not manipulate the message. Chapter 2. Wake up. Where are you today? Some time ago during a seminar, the lecturer did an exercise that changed my belief on the role that my heart plays in life. Since then, I frequently ask participants in my own workshops to do this same exercise. This practice is very simple. It consists of asking people to point to themselves with their hand and state, This is me. The amazing thing is that when they do this, they immediately point toward their heart. We all have the so-called inner voice, that part of us that knows, that understands very clearly when something is not aligned with what we want in life. The voice is always there, even if we sometimes decide to silence it or have become experts in doing so. I say this with conviction because I, myself, have been an expert in doing so. Since I was a little girl, I learned the importance of liking others before I liked myself. I learned that if I did what was expected of me, I would be rewarded with acceptance. Contrarily, if I expressed less positive emotions, I would be rejected. My parents were wonderful and loving parents, and they did the best they could. Certainly, they did much better than their parents did with them. Even so, the system is built to raise children conditioned with certain behaviors in order to produce socially adapted people. And this gradually confines their authenticity. As adults, we say yes when we really mean no, and we say no when we really mean yes. We accept a certain job because we believe there's no better option, although we know it is not what we really want. The same holds true of romantic relationships, friendships, unnecessary expenditures we make. The list is endless. But there's always an inner voice within us. I call it intuition, will, infinite wisdom, or inner guidance. That, as mentioned above, is very pure when we are children. But as we grow older, we begin to silence it, until one day it becomes difficult to differentiate intuition from fear. Although we deal with these two elements of ourselves every day, sometimes situations are greater than a passing circumstance. A few years ago, I found myself in such a situation. After some time of using what they call logic to choose what's right instead of what I really felt and wanted, I built for myself the picture-perfect scenario. I met the perfect man who gave me the perfect love, the perfect house, the perfect lifestyle, and my inevitable calling should have been to live happily ever after. He was a great person, and my situation was enviable. But I sensed deep down that something was not in alignment. We did not share the same key values that were important. We did not have a soulmate connection. However, I continued to ignore my deepest and truest emotions, which were revealing that this was not in fact the journey I so wanted. It took me a while to listen to my inner voice, but it became apparent during my coaching certification process when I went through a complete catharsis in my life. The denial could continue no more. Little by little, I began to confess to myself what I was terrified to accept. And you know what? It was not easy. Each day I confronted my situation was one day closer to making the decision to end my relationship, one that I had believed would last forever. It took me 10 long months, but I finally did it. In the end, I began to understand what true freedom was, that kind of freedom that lets you go to sleep every night with a peaceful and quiet conscience. Similarly, I have been in jobs completely removed from my essence, in toxic friendships, and unhealthy habits that hurt my body and my mind. All of the above have been lessons learned and actions taken that took place over a period of time. So I do not encourage you to immediately give up your jobs, break up with your partners, or drop your friends. The secret is not to give up. The secret is to start off with the truth and see where our inner voice takes us. I promise you, this shall lead us to peace and fulfillment. Now it's your turn. I want to share one of the simplest yet most powerful exercises. This exercise gave me the opportunity to see my life as a whole, as a perfect orchestra that needs all of its instruments playing harmoniously and pleasantly together. That is what we want, for your life to be in harmony with all that you desire. Wheel of Life. Please download the PDF that comes with this audio. Now, think about each aspect of your life. Here, assess on a scale from 1 to 10 how you feel in each area. 1 being, I feel very bad, unstable, and 10, I feel great. The aspects of your life are self, romance, physical body, finances, friends and family, work, creativity/hobbies, spirituality. Now, notice and ask yourself, what were the 2 areas with the lowest score? What are the 2 areas that you would like to change or improve? They do not necessarily have to be the ones with the lowest scores. Here's a little tip. If you're not sure which areas of your life to choose, ask yourself, what do you constantly think about? What thoughts come to mind when you wake up in the morning and go to sleep at night? To which aspect of your life do these thoughts or worries belong to? How would you be feeling if these 2 areas were a 10? What small actions can you take in these areas to take steps towards your freedom? It is important that we see our life as a whole. By improving one area, everything else is transformed as well. A beautiful example of symbiosis. A small ray of light is able to brighten an entire space. What are you not accepting? Life is simple. Everything happens for you, not to you. Everything happens at exactly the right moment, neither too soon nor too late. You don't have to like it. It's just easier if you do. Byron Katie. We always know when we do not want to accept something. If there was a college degree called Master in Dodging Reality with emphasis on not acceptance, surely a few years ago I would have graduated with honors. Starting with friends who rot my energy, to meaningless jobs and purposeless relationships. That is why I have had to learn to tell the truth. In my case, I was raised in a quiet family unit. My parents always strived for my brother and I to never see them fighting. This undoubtedly boosted my emotional balance. Still, by not witnessing expressions of anger or frustration, I grew up thinking that this must be the natural state of everything. In life, not everything is black or white. There is a whole range of colors in the middle. I am happy not to have seen my parents fight, but indisputably, to know that feelings like anger or frustration are very human emotions, when they're channeled right, would have been healthier. Now, 3 decades later, I can say that I have learned to live in the midst of these colors, without feeding my fears or immersing myself in evasive positivism. When you argue with what is, says author Byron Katie in her remarkable book, Loving What Is, you lose only 100% of the time. Nonetheless, we are experts in not accepting, in struggling with what is and living anguished and victimized by circumstances. Humans were given an inner guide system, which we have access to 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. This system is such wonderful and perfect technology that it would take us a long time to create a similar one. This inner guide is called our rainbow of emotions. Yes, our emotions are a direct access to our intuition, to our truth. So, I want you to return to the PDF, to the Wheel of Life, and write down next to each area of your life, how do I feel today in each of them? Go for it. Do not listen on if you have not done the exercise. I will be waiting for you here. Ready? Take a good look at each of the areas in your life. How do you feel concerning each one? And what are your feelings telling you? If you feel stuck at your job, then that might be your inner guidance telling you the following. I'm not happy with this job. Or, I would like to pursue another career. Or, I want to start looking at other companies. Or, it is time to talk to my boss. Or, it is time to be more assertive. Or, it is time to look at that business idea again. Or, it is time to ask for a promotion. Let's apply this thought process to other areas of your life. Perhaps regarding your relationship, you might say, I do not feel fulfilled. Then, ask that emotion, what are you telling me? And most likely the response will be something like this. This relationship needs a greater purpose. Or, my fears are growing. I need to feel safe. Or, we don't have the same values. Or, I want to be single. Or, it is time to seek professional help because we're not doing well. Or, our communication needs attention, etc. Now let's move from an external outlook to a more internal perspective. What things about yourself are you not accepting? For example, I grew up with the notion that I was emotionally balanced, that the way I saw things was the way they were. The impression that I had no areas to improve, besides being arrogant, it caused me to make mistakes, and then realize that there were actually emotional traces that I needed to heal. The most important thing about this exercise is to allow the emotion to guide us to where the truth lies. And what is it that we are not accepting? When I asked myself these questions, at first, I did not want to accept the answers. My resistance was too strong to realize that the life I had built for myself from the time I was a child was nothing more than a social victory, not an inner success story. My soul never lied to me, nor did it stop talking to me. I was the one who learned to silence it, to feel myself with outside noise, so I would not have to pay attention to the truth. And now, I had to give its deserving voice back in order to achieve what I wanted. It was a very difficult step, but I promise you, this is a step toward freedom. Take your time. Do not hurry. This is the first step and perhaps the most important. Accepting what is not something that you achieve overnight. While it is true that sometimes we have those magical moments in which everything suddenly falls into place and the truth sets us free, we do not necessarily have to expect and wait for that to happen in order to find our way towards authenticity. Our emotional wounds. In his book, The Mastery of Love, Don Miguel Ruiz says that we, human beings, are born with an unharmed emotional body. But as time goes by, the first wounds begin to appear on our bodies, to the point that if someone wants to touch us, we immediately react with pain. It might seem difficult to accept certain things about our reality, because to accept them is like pouring salt in the wound. We have emotional wounds that we do not even know we have, and these keeps us from discovering the truth. I am not a psychoanalyst, and in my coaching sessions, I focus mainly on the following: where we are today and where we want to go tomorrow. Moreover, I acknowledge the importance of searching where these wounds came from and how they can be healed. When I was younger, I thought I was a normal person living in a normal world. My outlook changed year after year, as if I were experiencing a butterfly's metamorphosis. The crisis, the pains, the trials of the world began to awaken me. So I decided to use these ordeals to come to life and not to drift off any longer. That is why I take this opportunity to tell my story. I grew up in a middle-class family with loving parents, strong spiritual beliefs and practices. I was born 7 years later than my brother, at a time when my mom was graduating from college. It was a very difficult time for her, since my arrival was not planned, and that changed the course of her life. Naturally, my brother felt jealous with my presence, and true to form, as I grew older, I was constantly rejected by him. My mom worked a lot, and my dad, as a business owner, had more time for my brother and me. But he too had to work. Several housemates contributed to my education and upbringing. I grew up watching telenovelas, soap operas, and elements such as structure and discipline were not very present in my life. Then again, my parents did what they could, and spoiling me and my brother is what they did best. I was born with a small defect in my kidneys, and before I was even a month old, I had to spend extra time in the hospital. When I was able to go home, my mother, full of guilt, decided to pamper me, and one of her demonstrations of love was to overfeed me, so I would recover all the weight I had lost during my hospitalization. As a result, I became an overweight girl, which, even without my understanding, seemed to be a big problem for the world. My aunts, uncles, cousins, and other relatives, along with my classmates, had a big problem with me being different. I did not understand it very well, but upon entering puberty, I decided that if it was a problem for others, it was going to be a problem for me too. Thus began years of rejecting my body. As I grew older, it was my understanding that beauty meant being worthy of love. If I was not beautiful, I was not good enough. Because of these beliefs, I accepted unhealthy relationship, and I carried these insecurities in all areas of my life. As expected in a young woman, keen to discover the world, I drank and partied, starting at a very young age. And although I do not have an addictive personality, I did have episodes of not being in control. This continued until my early 20s, when I began to discover that there were other ways of living and finding love in the right places. It was then that my healing process began. My purpose and hope in writing this book is that you do not take so long to begin using this knowledge and tools to also heal yourself from within. Is it possible to change? Logic will get you from A to B. Imagination will take you everywhere. Albert Einstein. A great friend once told me, we human beings are intellectually dishonest because by using our intellectual logic, we betray the truth of our heart. That is so true. We follow the rules literally and logically, and then we find ourselves feeling that somehow we have landed in the wrong place. We do not know why we feel such emptiness if what we have done so far is exactly what we were supposed to do. Once we begin the path of authenticity, we can then begin to ask ourselves, what would happen if fill in the blank is something I want? Just allow yourself to daydream. Do not take action if you do not feel ready. For now, we're only lifting the veil before us.